When you're a child, the most comfortable place to be is with your parents. There's that sense of safety, but in some cases, a parent might not always be there, whether it's dad is away on a business trip or deployed with the military overseas, or even if a parent has unfortunately passed away. In the new book, Always by My Side, author Susan Kerner explores what it's like for a child to grow up with an absent father. And the attention this book has gotten specifically from the military community is amazing, since it's now being used as a tool to help kids cope. Please let me welcome to the program Susan Kerner, author of Always by Your Side. On my side. I thought of a pop culture reference when I knew you were coming on, and Cats in the Cradle by Harry Chapin, where he laments the story of being away from his son, and his son grows up without a father, and then unfortunately repeats the cycle. That's different than losing your dad in battle. Absolutely.
But the point of the book is really to help children connect to someone that wishes they could have been there but weren't able to be so. Always by My Side really offers children's ideas and ways in which they can feel like their dad is always present with them. I lost my husband to cancer when I was 2 months pregnant. And it was very important to me to feel as though she understood that his presence would be with us always, all around us. His spirit would always be with us on a daily basis. And it was really important to me that she feel that he was very much a part of her life growing up, and that she know who he was as a person. And so the book has generated a lot of interest, particularly from the military community, because children have deployed fathers. They've lost fathers in service. And this provides a wonderful way for them to feel as though they can connect to them without them actually being present with them.
You know, when you think about the things you have to do for your family, and I know that there's a big military, I mean, I can't compare myself to anyone in the military, but doing radio and television, I came home not too long ago, and my daughter was sitting at the top of the stairs of my house, and she said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I live here." And she said, "With me?" And I realized that I have been pouring so much, and she doesn't understand now that Daddy is doing these things so, you know, I can provide a home and an education for her and her sister. But I can only imagine how hard that is for a child whose father is not coming home for a year, maybe 2, or not at all.
It's quite a struggle, and especially when you're an only parent, you feel very strongly about helping your children feel as though there is a father there somewhere in the picture. And so that's why a lot of organizations, Army SOS, which is Survivor Outreach Services, is very interested in the book, because they help families. The second they've lost someone that they love, they go in and they really work with families on making that adjustment and moving through their days and getting used to a life without that person present. I got another call recently from an organization, Military Families Learning Network, and they're supported by the Department of Defense. They too are using the book as a tool to help children talk about what it's like to have a father that's not present, that's deployed, that's been lost.
Resentment, does the book help with children who might come to resent not having their dad around? Why you? Why did you have to do this? Why?
Probably. I'm sure that will be a part of my raising my daughter. She's 4.5, and I know little kids have big emotions, and they're trying to figure it out on a daily basis. Why, my daughter's always wondering why her father's not there, and we use certain language, and it's always an open discussion, and it's no secret. And her feelings on the matter will certainly change, and it's hard because I'm good cop and bad cop all the time, and I don't have my husband there to support me. So I'm sure there will be a time that arises when she might be resentful that he's not there. She certainly is envious of other kids when she sees fathers present on a daily basis. But the point of the book, though, which I know is helping her and also helping other kids that are in similar shoes, is that they're realizing that there are ways they can feel like their father's always present.
What's one of the things that the book stresses for kids? Let's say you have different stories, military, maybe a sickness, maybe somebody who just for socioeconomic reasons has to work these hours where they're away so much it's like they might as well not be around at all. What brings all of these types of situations together?
Well, it's a unifying factor that not every family is going to look the same. And there are going to be a lot of fathers that are not going to be present for a variety of different reasons. And the book does not discuss loss. It doesn't discuss death. It's really a happy, whimsical book where you just see children alone in different situations where they're thinking of their father. So in that way, it brings all of these different kinds of experiences and family dynamics together.
So what are some of the coping methods if a mom came to you and said, you know, my husband lost his life in Afghanistan, or my husband had problems with substance abuse and he's no longer part of the family. What are some of the things that help a child cope?
I think surrounding them with a family network that's very supportive is quite important. I also find with my daughter it's very important for us to connect with other families that have kids in similar situations. So I would say, you know, it's definitely a situation where I couldn't stress enough the importance of strength in numbers. My daughter has a whole little posse of friends in her neighborhood, and they all lost their dads to illness. And while that's not the same as kids that have lost their family in the military, I'm sure that in the military community they also have those built-in networks. And I think it's important for kids to be around children that are in similar shoes because they realize that they're not alone in this situation. And even though they don't sit around and say, oh yeah, hey, your dad died too, they know deep down that their family structure and their family dynamic is somewhat similar.
Because there's always, I mean, we've all seen the television episode where the one kid shows up to the father and son picnic and he's the only one without a dad.
Absolutely.
And the moral of the story is trying to explain it to him, and it, you know, it never seems to really set in. Let's talk about this Army SOS event. Let's talk about that.
Well, Survivor Outreach Services got a hold of the book, and Donna Engman, who's a program director there, was very excited because she thought this could be a very useful tool for their satellite offices. So I'm going to be speaking on 2 different teleconference calls next week, presenting to all of their different offices the purpose of the book, the impetus for the book, and how it might be helpful. You know, there are a lot of, there are books that represent just about every kind of family you can imagine in our contemporary society, but when it comes to children that are missing a father for whatever reason, whether he is just working, whether he is deployed, whether he is lost, there are not many books that represent a family that looks like that. And so it's a struggle for little kids, I'm sure. I mean, my situation is different in the sense that my daughter never got to know her dad. But with children that did get to know a father and then they lose them, that's another dynamic too. So this book should be a tool that can help, you know, kids respond when you're speaking to them in a language that they understand. And so when you have a children's book as opposed to a clinical book, you can connect on a much deeper level. And it's a wonderful springboard for conversation too. So
Wait, before you end, what about you? The author. A lot of times authors speak through their books. Have you been able to have experiences where people walk up to you and say, if it wasn't for this book, or thank you for this book? Do you get personal joy from the response from moms? If somebody else's life has helped just that much, does that make you?
Oh, I feel like job done.
Okay.
You know, I've heard from moms where their kids are bringing their book to school on their special day when they're allowed to bring in something that's very important to them that they'd like to share with the rest of the class. And then they forward me emails from their teachers saying, can we get another copy of the book? They love it and other kids are asking. I've gotten emails from people all over the country where women, particularly widowed moms, are thanking me for books that they can use to read with their kids, which help them to celebrate that parent that's not with them. And it also is it's a great springboard for conversation between parents and kids because they're images that children can relate to, and they're simple ways of feeling as though you can identify with that parent that's not there.
All right, Susan, thank you so much for coming and telling us about the